Hi, my name is Walter from Tilta, and this is a detailed walkthrough of the Tilta Assistant App. So once we have our Gravity gimbal set up and we have our camera balanced, let's turn on Bluetooth and link up with our Gravity gimbal through the Tilta Assistant App. Now we'll go through the Gravity page and then we'll set up the preset configuration. Now you have three different options. You have a 6 to 10 pound, 10 to 20 pound, and 20 to 33 pound option. The camera is about 10 to 20 pounds, so I'm going to select that. So the next option you'll see on the top of the page is operations mode. We have three different options. Normal mode, which also is called majestic mode. Briefcase mode, if you're using one handle to hold the gimbal up. It's for more compact spaces. And we have remote mode, which is for your Futaba, your mimic system. So the next page I'm going to show you is motor tuning. In motor tuning, you have three different options. You have stiffness, speed, and compensation. So stiffness is the amount of torque being applied for each of your axes. So let's say, for example, in your tilt, too little stiffness and you'll see some play in your image. Too much stiffness and you'll feel vibration in your gimbal, which in turn may shake your image. The next setting we have is speed. And for each of your axes, that means how fast they will respond to your motion. So closer to 0, they'll have a very slow response. Closer to 100, they'll have a fast, snappy response. The compensation is in regards to external forces being applied to the gimbal. So let's say you have your gimbal set up on a car and you have a frame and you take a sharp turn and it moves your gimbal slightly and it comes back, but it's not in the same compensation as you had before. So what compensation does is it compensates for those external forces and tries to bring you back to your original center point. So the next page we're going to look at is motion tuning. Inside of motion tuning, we have three different options. We have acceleration for your pan and tilt, dead zone for your pan and tilt, and roll offset angle. Now what acceleration does is how fast you want your gimbal to respond to your pan and tilt. The closer to 0, it'll be a very slow response to each pan and tilt. And if you set it to 0, you'll see no response when you're turning your pan or when you're turning tilt. This is an example of 100% acceleration for the pan and the tilt. Here's tilt. So this is an example of 0 acceleration for your pan and your tilt. So what dead zone does is how much play you have in the handles before it starts responding to your pan and tilt. So you have a maximum of 30 degrees from left and right for your pan and 30 degrees up and down for your tilt. This is an example of 50% acceleration for pan and tilt with 30 degrees of dead zone for pan and tilt. Now, roll offset angle is if you want to fix the offset of your roll axis. And for example, you have a maximum of 10 degrees for one side and 10 degrees for the opposite side. And then also in the app, you can save these as presets. So the next page we're going to look to is calibration. Inside of calibration, you will find Gyro Calibrate, 0 point, and center. You will also see the motor on and off switch. To apply Gyro Calibrate or the 0 point, you have to turn off the motors. Now, gyro calibration is when you want to calibrate the way the gimbal is oriented so it can better respond to your motion. 0 point is when you want to adjust the 0 point of your gimbal. So right now, it's perfectly straight, zeroed up with our handle. But if I wanted to change that, all I'd have to do is turn off the motor, and you will notice that the lights stay on, but it does mean that the motor is off. Adjusting your angle to your desired pan, make sure it doesn't move. Now you click on 0 point pan, wait for the prompt that says initial position has been acquired, and you turn on the motor and it should orient itself to your new desired position. Now the same thing is true for Gyro Calibrate. You want to turn off the motor, press Gyro Calibrate. It's going to tell you that calibration will begin in 5 seconds, so keep the gimbal motionless. It's going to calibrate, and calibration has been completed. Turn on the motor, you should be good to go. Now center is a readout of how far from center your gimbal is for each of your axes. Anything above or below 0 would be fine as long as it's closer to 0. Anything over 100 or negative 100, you would have to redo your gyro calibration. Or you might have to readjust the balance of your gimbal. So the last page we're going to go through is remote setup. Now this is whenever you're using your mimic system or your Futaba remote controls. So speed is how fast you want the gimbal to respond to your controls. Now this is independent to whatever you set in motor tuning and will not affect anything that you set in normal mode. Now you have speed for pan, tilt, and roll. You also have left and right angle limit for your pan, tilt, and roll. So the next part we have is testing. You can use to test the endpoints of each of your axes. And besides that, we have a lock to lock each of the settings for each of the axes into place. And that has been the Tilta Assistant App. This is Walter from Tilta, and thanks for watching.